What's up, everybody? Hope you're having an awesome Wednesday today. Welcome back to another video of Midweek Encouragement. I hope these have been an encouragement to you. That is the goal, of course, and I hope they've been a blessing to you. So today we're going to be in Mark chapter 5, and I'm going to read verse 21 through 34 to start with before we get into it. So Mark chapter 5, verse 21 through 34 says, "When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, 'My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live.' So Jesus went with him." So you can see a tremendous amount of faith in Jairus here. And one of the things I have circled here in my Bible is it says she will be healed and live. Jairus did not say, "Come and put your hands on her and we'll hope that she will live," or "she might live," or "it's something we could at least try and give it a shot, and maybe you can do it, maybe you can't, but I'd like to see if you can." No, he said, "Come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed." He had faith to say his daughter will be healed. He didn't doubt. He didn't question. He didn't wonder if Jesus could do it or if Jesus couldn't do it. He said, "Come and put your hands on her so she will be healed and she will live." Now that's a tremendous amount of faith. That's true faith, having faith in Jesus, knowing that he will do it. We're going to continue reading. It says, "A large crowd followed and pressed around him, and a woman who was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak." Verse 27 says, when she heard about Jesus. So evidently, she either heard somebody talking about him or somebody mentioned Jesus to her. Whatever it was or however it was, she heard about Jesus. This is why it speaks to me that it's very important that we share about Jesus and who Jesus is, what he has done, what he is doing, and what he's going to continue to do, because people will hear that. It says here in verse 27, when she heard about Jesus, so she heard it. She heard about it, and she wanted to experience this for herself. "And when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, 'If I just touched his clothes, I will be healed.' Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering." Now, before we continue into verse 30 through 34, I want you to pay attention to something here. Jairus said, "If you would come touch my daughter, I know she will live and be healed." The woman with the issue of blood said, "If I could just touch him." Now, both had tremendous amount of faith. Jairus said, if you would come and touch my daughter, I know she will live and I know she will be healed. The woman with the issue of blood said, "If I could just touch his cloak, I know I will be healed." So this shows tremendous amount of faith in both of them. They both had faith. But what I want you to pay attention to is Jesus still had time for the woman with the issue of blood while he was on his way to perform a different miracle. This just speaks to me because it shows that Jesus is never too busy for you. Even if he's performing a miracle in somebody's life right now, he still has time to perform a miracle in yours. When Jesus was on his way to another destination to perform another miracle, he still had time for the woman with the issue of blood. He still had time for her. Now, what others might perceive as a distraction or an interruption, Jesus recognized as a divine appointment. You know, there's many times when maybe you or I've been needing to go do something and I was on my way to get something done, and all these different things interrupt us and distract us. And maybe if we were to stop and think about it, maybe these things that we think are interruptions and we think are distractions, maybe these things are divine appointments. And maybe these are things that we need to pay attention to. You know, if this was us and we were on our way to do something else, we might have said, you know, I can't do this right now, I'll be back later, or I'm too busy right now, or hey, can you set up an appointment, or I'll get back to you, or just wait your turn. We'll do this, but just wait your turn. I'm thankful that's not how Jesus is. Jesus doesn't look at us as distractions or interruptions, even if he's doing other things. He has time for us and has time to perform your miracle, your healing, your deliverance, whatever it is that you're in need of. He has time for you. This also shows us that Jesus is never too busy for us. No matter what he is doing, he still has time to do it for you. That's an awesome thing to think about. I've met people before that say, well, I know he's got a lot of things to do and my problems are just kind of small. I know mine aren't very important right now compared to what everybody else is going through. We can't think like that. If you're going through something, you can call on him and you are not interrupting him. You're not distracting him. He has time for you. Jesus was on his way to perform another miracle for Jairus' daughter. He was on his way to do something else, but what we would call a distraction or an interruption, Jesus saw as a divine appointment for the woman with the issue of blood, and he was able to perform a miracle in her life. Now, if you continue in verse 30 to 34, it says, "At once Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, 'Who touched my clothes?' 'You see the people crowding against you,' his disciples answered, 'and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" Think about that. Can you imagine being in a crowd of people and somebody accidentally touched you or somebody touched you on purpose or whatever, and you're trying to figure out who it was, and you're like, "Who touched me?" Well, there's all kinds of people around. How are you going to figure out who touched you? This is what his disciples are saying. But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. He took the time because he knew something had happened. He took the time to see who had touched him. Verse 33, "Then the woman, knowing what happened to her? She experienced a miracle in her life that she could not deny, that it was Jesus. The woman, knowing what happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, 'Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering.'" I want you to pay attention to this. It says, "Daughter, your faith has healed you." Your faith is not a distraction or an interruption to Jesus. The Lord will respond to your faith at any moment, at any time, and he's never too busy. It says, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace." He didn't say go in doubt, go in fear of that it's going to come back again. He didn't say go in doubt that this ain't going to last very long and this healing's not going to be a long-term thing. He said go in peace and be freed from your suffering. And I don't know if this speaks to anybody today, but I just want to encourage you with this, that you're not a distraction to Jesus. You're not an interruption to Jesus. You can call on him at any moment, at any time. You can be like the woman with the issue of blood, even though he's headed to somewhere else and he's headed to perform another miracle or to do another task. You can have the mentality, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, I know I will be healed. And Jesus responded to her faith. She wasn't a distraction. She wasn't an interruption, but he had time for her, even though he was headed to do something else. And I want to encourage you with that today. He's never too busy for you. Whatever you're going through right now, Jesus has time for you. Jesus has time for your healing. Jesus has time for your miracle. Jesus has time for your deliverance. Jesus has time if you're stressed or depressed or you feel weary or you need strength. Jesus has time for you today. Never think that Jesus is too busy for you. He always has time for you. He's never too busy, and he will respond to your faith.